that is a fireside chat on reset, rethink, co-working design and tech. So let me first introduce our panel members here. The session will be chaired by Ramesh Nair, CEO, India and Managing Director, Market Development, Asia Colliers. With a diverse experience of over 23 years, Mr. Ramesh Nair's career has been focused on driving transformational change and delivering real estate solutions to domestic and multinational owners, investors, and occupiers across India and South Asia. At Colliers, Ramesh is overseeing the overall direction, strategy, and growth of the India's business. He also drives business development and key relationship management across EPIC. Well, a very warm welcome to our session moderator, Mr. Ramesh Nair. And let me now introduce our speakers in an alphabetical order. Mr. Karan Chopra, co-founder and chief revenue officer, Tablespace. He is an experienced entrepreneur with a demonstrated history of working in real estate and digital industries. He started Tablespace 5 years ago, sensing an opportunity in the growing need for integrated and managed workspaces among enterprise clients. Under his leadership, Tablespace has grown from 1 to 6 key cities in India with a footprint of over 4 million square feet and servicing over 100 enterprise clients, mostly Fortune 500 companies. Our next eminent panel member is Mr. Nitish Sarda, founder SmartWorks. Founded in 2016, SmartWorks is India's largest provider of enterprise-focused managed and flexible office spaces, which is leveraging its robust digital platform to deliver tech-enabled, fully serviced, flexible, and affordable workspaces. With over 5 million square feet under management across 32 plus locations in 9 cities, SmartWorks caters to Fortune 500 companies, large enterprises, SMEs, and established unicorns and startups. Our next and final member, let me introduce Parthajit Sarma, Senior Associate, Advanced Workplace Associate. Parthajit is a workplace strategy and change management consultant partnering with global clients to co-create future business scenarios by way of a deep understanding of work, workers, and workplaces in the digital age. In fact, his work over 2 decades in this domain has resulted in a book titled The Radically Changing Nature of Work, Workers, and Workplaces. With an educational background in design and management, Parthajit is also Chevening Scholar for Science and Innovation. So this is our eminent panel, and let me now hand it over to Mr. Nair.
Thanks, Apna. Am I audible?
Yes.
Visible?
Yeah.
Great. So good evening, everyone. Thanks for your attention. My name is Ramesh Nair and I work with Colliers. Welcome to this co-working summit and awards. I'd like to thank Realty Plus for organizing this event. Today we are going to be discussing co-working design and technology. So we have our expert panelists who are all high-performing leaders, industry stalwarts in the co-working domain. Our efforts is to provide you with some interesting topics and interesting speakers. Let me start with you, Nitish. Nitish, how is technology fueling the rise of flex space and tech innovations in flex spaces?
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry, am I audible now?
Yeah, audible.
Awesome. So I think technology, Ramesh, first of all, thank you for having me here on this on this conversation. I think how technology is being looked at specifically now, where people have started thinking about work from anywhere or work from home or bring home to work sort of a concept, is that it has now become an essential part of your work environment, right? You need technology to essentially help you, schedule. For example, if you're doing alternate day working, if you're doing booking your seats when you're coming to work, the workspace strategy, which is now evolving from a fixed desk to a flexible desk, that requires technology for it to be enabled. And I think technology is going to be the thing around which everything is going to be surrounded, right? Earlier, co-working was only focusing on services and building out the space. Design and services used to be the two most important things. I think for us, as we've added another layer, which is the tech layer. Now we actually take tech, design, and then services all parallel to each other when we look at office spaces. So I think you will see a lot of innovation happen over the next 2 to 3 years that you hadn't seen in the last 10 years. But I think tech has become essential rather than just a good to have.
Thanks, Nitish. Karan, let me ask you the next question. What are some of the new services you have started offering in the last couple of years since COVID started?
Sure. Hi, Ramesh. Hi, Nitish. And hi, everybody else. So yeah, of course, Ramesh, integration of everything when, like Nitish said, technology, services, etc., is key for any service provider today. Having said that, we need to keep innovating every now and then. And of course, COVID has, changed the way we think, and we've focused on multiple different services that we feel could be more beneficial to a lot of clients. Though I think a lot of clients themselves are kind of figuring out a way to bring people back to work. But I think services like creating more engagement platforms within your centers. For example, we try to do a lot of art events, stuff like more and more engagement events, leadership thought summits within our centers, which are typically streamed live to all our clients, and which they would kind of access everywhere, which kind of lightens up the mood of each and every person who's working from home and gives him some kind of motivation and a fun factor to come back to work. I think there's a lot of talks around only and only work. I think there's a social impact that needs to be dwelled upon. What can you add to their overall well-being, even when they're sitting at home? Not just making sure that they are completing their projects, but I think making sure that they are socially connected to the environment which they typically miss. So I think we create a lot of engagements within the organization and within our centers, which allow clients to see what's happening at site and kind of start missing going back to work. And hence it kind of intrigues them to, yeah, guys, you know what, I'm socially missing a lot of stuff, and why don't I start going back to work? That is one aspect of the social aspect. I think other things like Nitish also mentioned, there's a lot of technology is obviously at the top of the spectrum at the moment. So creating stuff like app controlled car parking and bike parking, so that whenever person comes to work, he has that ease of parking and lift management services, cafeteria occupancy tech, wherein a person doesn't have to go into a very dense, highly occupied cafeteria. So we provide that kind of data onto their onto table space app as well. We focus a lot on health and fitness as well. So we've got trainers across all our centers who are encouraging a lot of people who are coming to work to get back into fitness, because a lot of people have been sitting at home, sitting on the same chair, lagging around. There are different kind of health issues, which I'm sure you guys are aware of, because a lot of topics have been discussed around health issues working from home. So our endeavor is not just to get people back to work, but socially also engaged, so that they're intrigued to come back to work and make it a more fun, rather than making it more stressful than saying, yeah, I have to go back to work now. We want to say, like, you know what, I really want to have fun, hence I want to go back to work. So these are some of the services. You want to call it services, or you want to call up some of the things that we are doing to make sure, or rather trying to make sure, that people come back to work.
Thanks, Karan. Parth, what are some of the big innovations we are seeing in workplaces?
Hi,
Ramesh.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, go ahead, Karan.
No, please go ahead, Pradhaji. I would love to hear it from you.
No, go ahead. I'll add on to you.
Please. I'm fine. I'm just going on. That's okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. No, I think all the good words have already been spoken, so to say. Karan will add to this, but lots of innovations, Ramesh, and it's really difficult to point out and select few. And but there's one thing which I'd like to point out, and that is really that this is really been driven more by occupiers this time than by architects and designers. And my designer friends will hate me for saying this, but let me try and explain. I mean, for a lot of organizations and for a lot of employees as well, the way work is done itself has been reconstructed, right? Thanks to COVID. And then they begin to appreciate that there's a linkage between this new construct of work and the workplace. So changes and innovation in the workplace is the kind of stuff that Nitesh spoke about, Karan spoke about. It's bound to happen. It is bound to happen. Now, the other shift which is happening is the acceptance that one size does not really fit all. I mean, earlier organizations wanted to build like a smart works like office or a Google like office because they felt that this will perhaps help them imbibe the same culture that these offices foster. But it doesn't really work that way, does it? I mean, it actually works the other way around. You need to identify what are the organizational goals and what are people's aspirations, what is the culture, and the kind of stuff that Karan spoke about that they do. And then use these insights to bring about changes in the workplace that support their own unique constructive work and not be a copy of someone else's constructive work. And if this uniqueness really means that you have a rather unconventional constructive work. In the previous panel, I was hearing about somebody talking about opening offices in Shimla and Goa, and so be it. And that's why you have these new concepts like, workation. Somebody was telling about workation, work and vacation, where organizations take up these places in these, places like Goa and Shimla and give an option to their employees to work from there. So you can well imagine now that the look and feel of such an office is likely to be distinctly different from the look and feel of an office in, say BKC or Central Bangalore, because they serve completely different purposes. Now, will some of these unconventional things work out? I mean, it's too early to say, but I think leadership is at least making an attempt to establish a linkage between workplaces and their unique culture and constructive work. Sorry, long answer. Karan, you can add to that.
Karan, you want to add to that?
No, I think bang on. I must say that, there's a lot of stuff, and like he rightly said, that it's my guess versus yours. So I think a lot of people are trying to figure out. We are all trying to do unconventional stuff to make sure. And it's not because we want people to come back to work, not because we create spaces, but I think it motivates us also as operators or as managed workspace providers to see people coming back to work and having fun, because we've seen that in the 2018 and 19, we've already seen that. And now what we thought was working very well in 18, 19 may not necessarily work well in 21, 22, 23. So I think it's not the way you only build the office. I think it's the hospitality angle, the social angle that needs to kind of really, really go up the curve and figure out a way to make sure that end of the day, everybody wants to have, I love to have fun when I come to work. So I feel everybody should have fun when they come to work. So that's how we feel, that's what Table Space thinks, and that's what we're trying to build around what we provide.
Karan, what are some of those big design changes you're doing? If it came to a Table Space center like 2 years back and today, what are the big design changes we will see?
Great question. I think, Ramesh, you've heard this from me before also. And I just have one example, which I give many times, is that, office is like an iPhone. I mean, when we change a phone every year, every 2 years, why don't we change an office every 5 years? When I say don't change an office, don't keep changing your location. Thanks, please be with us, that's fine. But what I'm trying to say is that create an office in a way, or create an environment in a way that can change every year, every 2 years, that can have employees come back and not face the monotony that they would feel in a very conventional design. Let's say you were sitting in the office for you have a conventional space. You typically don't rebuild the space for the next 5 to 7 to 8 years in most of the conventional leases, right? Our endeavor is to provide them innovation, technology, hospitality, travel around the world, bring best-in-class knowledge and information that we can integrate into our overall infrastructure and these services that will help them and help people to see every year that, I'm coming back to a new environment. So that is where I think we focus a lot on. And if you see in the past, and probably the others could help me out too, and Ramesh, probably you even more than me, is that, earlier the fixed desk used to be 80% versus collab 20%. I think now that is changing rapidly, right? People are looking at more flexibility in terms of collaborative spaces, more touch points, no fixed desks, for example. And I think that is changing. So hence, I feel that it should be like an iPhone. I mean, that's what an example I give to all the guys in our company as well. Why do we have to build an office thinking 5 years? Why don't we build an office only thinking a year? Make it modular, make it more design friendly. Go back in here and say, listen, guys, you know what? This is boring. I only find it boring myself after a year. Let's redo something so that it's more refreshing, more engaging every year. So that's what our endeavor is, to see that we are able to bring that innovation and redesign the office. I know it's expensive, but redesign doesn't have to be necessarily expensive. It could be very, very minimal things to make it more and more refreshing every year. So that's what we focus on a lot, yeah.
Karan, today I was actually with a client who used to have a 20-80, like you said, 20 collab and 80 80 fixed. He's gone just the other way. Now it's become 80-20, 80
Yeah.
collab and 20 fixed, and a big global company. And that's actually helped them save space by around 40-45% lesser space. So some path-breaking stuff happening around the world. So on that, so.
Absolutely, yeah, Ramesh. Yeah.
So Nitish, let me come to you. Even now, close to 80-88% of all space of flex stock is in the top tier one cities. What's your take on tier two, tier three cities? Of late, there's been a lot of talk around it, especially in the last 1 year or so. What do you see are the opportunities there?
I definitely think tier two, tier three also has a lot of potential. It's just where you can allocate or where would you want to grow first? Because the appetite in the top 9 cities in India is only that big that you can keep growing here before you go to the tier two city, right? But I think our sort of strategy to enter is that we want to get into tier two cities. In fact, we've just signed our center in Jaipur. So that's the first tier two entry that we're getting into. But we will open in other tier two cities, but it won't be with the same scale that we have in the tier one cities. The strategy for a tier two is going to be visibly different, more towards the co-working slash smaller managed office solution. And then our campus-like settings, our larger office centers are the ones which are going to keep continuing in the tier one cities. But I think in terms of potential, tier two and tier three in India does have that potential. Is it maybe a few quarters or a few years early? Yes, I don't think you can venture into a tier two city and be very, very aggressive, but it is a good time to venture in for sure.
What would be your top 4-5 cities you would pick in tier two?
So in tier two, in terms of immediate expansions, you've got Jaipur, Ahmedabad, Kochi, Coimbatore, and Indore. I think all these 5 cities are very different and very unique in the kind of office space demand and proposition that they have for the office goers. So I think as a strategy, we want to enter all of these 5 cities within this year.
Got it. Nitish Parth, it's not easy for a company which is used to traditional workspace to suddenly move into a new co-working kind of an environment. So any thoughts around what are the change management steps a company should do during this phase?
Ramesh, you're absolutely bang on. It's not easy. I think there's been a clear shift from the earlier position that management was kind of doing things to people, right? Hey, look, this is a new office, brand new office. Enjoy it. The human brain is not really wired or really comfortable with change when you're not warned about it in advance. And none of us are big fans of change, right? So from an organization's perspective, what happened is that what COVID has really taught us is that, hey, look, here is proof of concept around change itself, right? That teams can actually go through drastic changes without warning in a very short span of time, and you more or less come out of it fine, right? So the smart organizations are actually using this narrative to drive down change much more aggressively, I think, than they did in the past. There was always this fear, right? Will this be accepted? But there is one, kind of strikingly visible aspect around this is the fact that, people are being listened to. Empathy has taken center stage in all change initiatives in organizations. So a lot of these change initiatives are being co-created. Also, I mean, from my perspective, I see increased value and kind of respect for office spaces in driving change in India. Now, when a new office is conceptualized, or let's say there's some kind of refurbishment, like Karan was referring to, that you need to keep on changing the design once in a while. A corresponding change communication plan includes activities from the early stage of conceptualization, which is never the case earlier. So gone are the days when when an employee actually comes in to a brand new office on the go live day, and that's the first time he's seeing the office. No, he's informed about it in advance. He's warned about it. He's actually warmed up about it, well in advance. A lot of senior management or senior leadership is actually seeing this as a fantastic opportunity, I think, to roll out innovation initiatives. I mean, which always involves change. I mean, things which are always kept in the back burner for the fear of failure. Now it's like the leadership is actually saying, hey, look how agile we can be, responding to COVID. So let's try and see something new, and let's see what happens. So leadership to that extent are becoming a little, fearless.
Thanks, Parth. Let me take this opportunity to share some of the insights which we've been kind of we've got studying the entire managed office and co-working industry. We realized that there are close to 3,500 centers across the country, close to 43 million square feet of today's space. Out of that 43 million, close to 38 million square feet is in metro cities. The balance 5 million is in non-metro cities. So that's around 88% of the total stock was in metro. The pandemic actually provided an opportunity for operators to look at non-metro locations. So 1 year back, we were not talking about tier 2, or 2 years back, we weren't talking about tier 2 cities. Occupiers today, we see a lot of them are establishing their sales and regional offices in co-working centers, especially in tier 2 cities. Non-metro cities, since the beginning of COVID, that's like Q2, Q3 2020, in the last 1 year alone, we have seen close to 925 new centers come up in non-metro cities, many of them actually small. We predict by 2024, flex space would total to 60 million from the current 43 million square feet. Some of the new innovations we have seen, co-working and managed office players give us single day work passes, fitness centers, coffee shops, hangout spaces, gaming zones, virtual events. Karan spoke about that, concierge services, personal assistance, wellness related services offerings. So these are some of the new things which we are seeing. On the technology front, we are seeing very data-driven expansion plans, which everybody is supporting you with. A lot of focus around security, a lot of focus around wellness, and everybody focusing on how they could improve occupier experience. The other insights which we've got also includes that we believe going forward, around 20% of the overall office demand is expected to come from this industry. Last year it was 15. There were a couple of cities where actually it's crossed around 40%, but overall it was only 15%, which is still a very big number, given that India absorbs anywhere between 30-35 million square feet of office space every year. We expect more consolidation in this industry. Large enterprises will continue to drive demand. Technology, we believe, will be a key differentiator between players. And co-working operators who are focused on increased wellness, increased sanitization, increased social distancing, personal hygiene would definitely do better than others in the current environment. Overall growth, we believe the industry over the next 3-4 years will grow at a pace of around 20-22%. The close to, I spoke about the number of the square footage. We believe we're close to 550,000 odd seats. Bangalore is the city with the most number of seats. Close to 45% of enterprise deals are done by tech companies. Many operators, nearly 250 different operators across the country. And the top 10 operators alone, of which the two of them are here, I would say the top 5 operators are here in the panel today. They occupy around 60% of the total seats, and just between them, the top 10 operators have around 330,000 seats. So those are some insights from our recent research around the sector. Karan, let me come back to you. There is suddenly a lot of competition and a lot of entrants. What are some of the key challenges you're facing as a industry? I remember post-COVID, the co-working industry went through a lot of stress as with short-term leases, people started terminating freelancers anyway didn't turn up. Small companies who are taking those monthly, 3-month, 6-month kind of things, they terminated their contracts. What are some of the current challenges you see in the sector?
Just to answer, I think firstly, unfortunately, we did not ever enter the short-term leasing business. So that completely kept us away from the termination during the COVID period. So that was pretty much good for us in the last 2-3 years. Having said that, I think more than competition, I think it is the way we see the industry, and this is totally my perspective, is that I think many of the flex players, and could be any number, there's a lot of the overall product is based on price, not the value. So I think that is one aspect that everybody needs to focus on, and which I feel, and this is my personal perspective, like I said, if you put price over value, you kind of start building substandard products, providing substandard services, and which typically leads to a lot of lack of innovation, I would say. I think what we, and really, if you look at the airline business, Ramesh and everybody else from the panel, or you look at the seat business, really, or the businesses like Airtel and Vodafone, right? If you start reducing price, you're typically hurting the industry as a whole. So I think if all flex operators focus on value versus price, number one, and also as a company, what we do is we try to bring in a lot of best-in-class solutions and service capabilities to all our clients. And this obviously is done by creating world-class leadership teams, introducing innovation for every client. Let's say we've got a client, for example, a Salesforce, right, who's got a very, very large client. Can you provide the same values, service, hospitality, design to your client who's also occupying 50 seats? I think that is where, that is what we focus on, right? We have to give the same experience to everybody. So I think challenge, yes, of course, there is a price challenge for everybody, and anybody can probably vouch for that. But I feel if we all focus on value over price, and that will typically be a very positive change for our entire industry.
Thanks. Nitish, do you agree with current value over price?
I completely agree with that, right? I don't, while price is the most important thing that you sort of negotiate on, everything else comes much later. And the Indian mindset is that even if the price is the best, you will go and negotiate. So price will always be, you should put value over price. I completely agree. But I also think that it is a requirement for this industry to grow at the pace that you're projecting, Ramesh, that you maintain a certain price point and you grow around with that price point across India, right? You can't essentially be creating products which are super highly priced and then expect the industry to grow as quickly. So I think there is I put value up there, but price is also equally important. Because I think our strategy is essentially we want to do everything to get the cost down and hence pass that price back to the customers. And that's what we've been working for. When we invest in technology or we are getting some new innovation done, we invest in things that help reduce cost first and then start investing in things, because at the end of the day, it needs to make commercial sense for any company to choose this over and above the traditional office space. And like Karan mentioned, we don't do monthly deals or yearly deals or the other co-working deals, which essentially where you can still expect the incoming clients to pay a slight amount of premium. But I think it all depends on how do you value your own product, right? What is the price point that you want to maintain? There, Karan mentioned something about airlines. Even today, you open Make My Trip, you'll see Vistara listed at X price and Indigo listed at Y. Both of them make money. Probably Indigo makes more, but it'll always be at a lower price point, even if the occupancies are there, because the product is designed in a way in which it can scale to more and more people. Right, so and that's just how we think of our strategy.
So both of you, Karan and Nitish, you both obviously customize based on what the client wants. what is the typical density you're seeing, square footage per person these days?
Average, I think average density, in fact, has gone down, as in the more square footage has started being taken per seat. Pre-pandemic, I think we were able to achieve close to about 65, 70. I see that number now go to 80, 85 because people have now started looking at collab spaces, creating other amenities within their office spaces because companies have realized people have stayed back home for the last 2 years. They've had the comfort at their houses. You need to now look at office spaces in which you can give them a mix of both. You can give them comfort as well as the workstation and chair where they can be productive, right? So we are seeing this trend go towards about 80, between 80 to 90, depending on the type of company that you're servicing. It would be the national average.
Karan?
I mean, our national average is quite a lot. Currently, we are at about 125. But yes, but that is also because I think there's a bucket of clients that we have, and that takes up the average. But I think adding to Nitish's point, that because like I mentioned in the some time back over this call, and so did Bhartaji, that and so did you, that the fixed desks and the collab spaces have kind of changed. So hence, if you have more collab spaces, though you might have a reduction in your overall space, but then at the same time, your density also goes higher. So hence, we feel we are at about between the 85 to 100 kind of a range at the moment, if we take out the outliers. Yeah.
Got it. So one more point on pricing. Let's take Mumbai and Delhi out. And let's look at the IT cities, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Pune. Where is the sweet spot in terms of price per desk, Nitish and Karan? Again, to both of you, where are you seeing that?
You can go first. I can go first this time if I don't have a problem. See, I think there's different ways. I think Nitish and his firm, provide
the sweet spot. Where do you see the most?
I'm just trying to first explain and give you a background, Ramesh, over here. I think everybody puts on an offer in a very different manner. There's some people do it on a per seat basis. Some people call it in a per square feet basis. Some peers would do it on a per production seat basis. We largely do it only on a production seat basis, right? And we don't do a full seat calculation. This is just from the way we function, right? So when we have a deal which is for 200 workstations, we only bill for 200 workstations. We don't add on additional seats. Our sweet spot in Hyderabad for a per workstation is close to about 14,500 to 15,500 rupees a desk, somewhere in that range. Bangalore is somewhere roughly about 18 to 19, and Bombay and Delhi, like you said, let that be on the side because the rentals are much higher. Chennai, we've just started, to be honest, about a couple of months back, but we are looking at a 12,500 kind of range. But I know Nitish has and SmartWorks does have a great presence, and kudos to you guys. But we feel at this moment that is the kind of range that we are trying to achieve, or rather have achieved with a couple of transactions that we've done.
Nitish, your sweet spot?
I think the sweet spot, whenever we go and source a building, we want to keep the pricing between 9 to 11,000. I think that's the average price that you maintain essentially in the entire building. For us, these cities, why 9 to 11,000 is also essentially calculated in a way in which we want to prove that we are cheaper than a traditional office space. When we go out to our clients, we don't go out and claim that you pay us a little extra for the flexibility that we give you. We in fact say that because you come to us, we will actually make it more economical than a traditional office space for you. And typical India, if you see, for an office to run its own space cost about 12 to 12,500. I think it was there also in one of the reports that 12,500 to 13,000 is the cost per seat, which comes in India. So if you can reduce that, that is a significant amount of value, specifically in times like such where people have not been coming to work and offices are just a cost center for most of these companies.
Nitish and Karan, both of you have expanded really fast. Like I said earlier on, there are close to 250 plus operators in the country today. All these owner operators are trying to create valuations, trying to probably get private equity or maybe one day list. What is your advice to a budding entrepreneur who is who wants to get good valuation, what should be his next step? Someone who has, let's say, 1 or 2 or 3 small centers in a metro city or in a tier 2 city. What would your Karan, yours and Nitish's advice be to them?
I just have two basic advice. Essentially, one is you need to first identify what your differentiator is, right? You cannot go after the market because there are already 250 players in the market. You can't go enter the market and expect that you are also going to be one of the larger ones, right? You need to find your differentiator and how are you going to make sure that the market also accepts that as a differentiator. I think that is very important. And then the second thing is you need to start thinking big, right? Like at any given point of time, even if you start small, your vision should be big enough so that you are able to scale to that point, right? Today, if we are at 6 million square foot across India, we're not thinking about getting to 8 or 10 million. Now we're thinking about getting to 35 million, right? So the idea is that if you really believe in the product, if you really believe in the model, then you should think big and make sure that you have your differentiator sorted before pumping in your money and then subsequently the investors' money.
Karan?
Great. I'll just kind of break it down to what Nitish said. I think one is, one core value what any new service provider. At the end of the day, guys, we all know it's just an office, right? Anybody with some or a little more than some money in the bank, they can build an office, start a space, rent out a space. I know that I don't have to make a building. I have to rent a space, lease it out. I don't lease it out. I know that I get into trouble, or I just keep subleasing it out. I make money. I think one is any new player needs to think customer first, competition second. So like Nitish said, think about your differentiator. What can you provide as a differentiator to your customer, right? Don't forget what the competition is doing. Secondly, I think you have to have a vision of being an India landlord versus saying a very, very city centric or a micro location. So you got to think, of course, you got to think big. So you got to think about having multiple locations, because if you do not, then somebody else who already got that larger footprint will take away that business. So of course, everybody starts small, and including any of the operators that we have on this panel or outside of this panel. But yes, you got to have that presence, that footprint. And the third most important thing is that anybody and everybody needs to figure out that this is not just building an office. This is about creating a very, very safe and healthy environment to a lot of people who are coming to your office space. For example, if you go to a mall, it's a mall's responsibility to be providing you a very, very safe environment to come and shop in. Similarly, it's not just about building an office, but can you follow all the EHS compliance? Can you have the right kind of team and minds who will give you these kind of assurances and a health and a more and much safer and secure environment to work in? So not just building an office or building a space to come and work. I think these things are extremely important for anyone to kind of focus on, because end of the day, the liability is very large, right? You've got 300, 400 people working out of your office. Anything goes wrong, it's going to be hurting very bad. So I think these are 3 takeaways I would say for anybody else who's going to start or get into this business.
What's the thumb rule on valuations, Karan and Nitish, these days? Very high level thumb rules, top line multiplier, bottom line multiplier. What is it like in this industry?
I think we're still figuring out what the benchmark should be. There has been deals which have happened ranging from 1.5 times to 27 times. So you can't really have a
1.5 times top line
revenue,
to 27 times top line.
Time top line. The deals have happened across that spectrum, but essentially I think see, at this point of time the industry is still very, very young, so it has to be a multiple of the top line, essentially because it's a high growth stage that most of the players are in, right? So I think it cannot be valued as real estate, right? Because at the end of the day, it is services, and that layer of services is what will help you grow quicker. So I think something closer to what hospitality chains and all of these guys are valued at, about 7 to 8 times, 9 times of revenue is what, in my sense, is a fair value.
Thanks, Karan.
I'll look at this slightly differently. I think generating a top line revenue in this business and getting a multiplier is very different, because this is not where we own the asset. I think in this business, we are leasing and subleasing. I think it is extremely important to look at your bottom line and your EBITDAs. So I think this business really needs to be valued on the EBITDAs that you make. So what it could be 10 times, 15 times, 20 times, I don't know. And like just to agreeing to Nitish's point, it is a nascent industry. There is no there's not a lot of benchmarking done. Of course, we know a couple of guys who've raised large equity as well. But I think given that it is a leasing and subleasing and not asset ownership business, this business should be valued on EBITDA, not the top line revenue.
Nitish, I'm keen to know who's this person who got 27 times top line?
I think there are multiple players. There are a few players from America who've gotten these numbers.
Wow.
So I think there was a trend when you started upfront, right? This was
the back then. Okay,
something,
okay. I thought
the back
currently.
then. Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
Okay. Parth, where will one use AI and IoT in this space?
Actually, you kind of alluded to that, Ramesh, when you said that data-driven decisions can be taken nowadays, and it's very true. And I mean, the difference now is that you can actually curate personalized experiences, like the kind of experiences that Karan spoke about. You can actually curate that on the basis of real-time data when an office is operational, and this is not really done before. And you talk about energy efficiency of a building also. You can actually now make the building infrastructure respond on the basis of occupancy. And in the simplest of examples, like the intensity of, let's say, services like lighting and air conditioning can change automatically depending on the occupancy levels of a particular space. Now, this essentially means sensors that senses the occupancy levels, which sends a signal to the IBMS, and that sends a signal to the building services to react. And this is IoT at work. Easier said than done. I mean, these things are being actually done as we speak. However, of course, there's a little bit of integration problem there because systems do not talk to each other. But eventually, like for example, I can send an email to you, Ramesh, but I cannot send a message from iMessage to WhatsApp. That's because they don't have open APIs, and this is going to change in the IBMS as well. So if you add a layer of AI to this and say integrate your online collaboration tools like MS Teams, your seat booking app, to the physical meeting rooms as well, you can see predictive analytics at play. Like for example, Ramesh, if you have a meeting, let's say with me, and I want to come to your office, so your app could actually tell you, hey, Ramesh, you have a meeting with Parth at 2 o'clock. Would you like me to book that room for you? So these kind of things are actually being done. And once the physical room gets blocked and when you walk in, the lighting and the air conditioning will actually adjust to your liking on the basis of your previous choices of your temperature and lighting. So these things are actually being done. There's a bit of struggle there, but I think we're getting there.
Yeah, I think I'd just like to add one more thing on that, right? Also, I think it's also about re-strategizing of space. Why IoT and AI will play a very important role is people don't know what the future of office is going to be, right? Everyone is still contemplating, deciding on how would they want to structure their offices. At this point, if you can actually give them that data, how many employees are coming on a regular basis, which part of the offices are they using, how are they using these offices, are they more productive in open areas, they're spending more time in open collab zones, or are they going into meeting rooms and spending more time there? What is the utilization of your meeting rooms and real estate at the end of the day? All of this data has become very, very valuable for a company to actually take a call. And it's not like earlier, right, where it was a one size fits it all, or one company, because Google does it, because Facebook does it, we need to do that too. Every company has now become very unique, has a different skill set. Even within technology, there are different sort of talent that you're hiring. So I think all of this data has become very valuable for people to take a office-based decision. So it's become a necessity in the long run to implement all of this upfront now.
Got it, Nitish. Sapna, you want to take a couple of audience questions?
There is one interesting question that we have here is, everyone been talking about IoT and technology in co-working. What does metaverse mean for co-working? So I can take it for all our speakers if they can add to it. How does metaverse is, are we going to see co-working in metaverse now?
I don't understand that. Anyone who wants to take that?
Sure.
Nitish?
No, yeah. No, I think it's a very, we don't know what is going to really
We
happen.
already have Facebook Horizon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. There are bunch of people who are already talking about it or getting into it. I think it's a very interesting concept if you are able to implement it. I don't think it is going to be something that is going to challenge co-working because the services angle still have to be there. It can be something which sort of complements and puts this product in the virtual world as well, where it can be an extension, right? In the earlier, chat before this, someone had mentioned that there is a Zoom fatigue which is kicking in. There is people are not meeting face to face, and that's where there is some challenges which you face. But I think metaverse can essentially solve that. Will that be a threat to the existing office space? I highly doubt it. I think people will have to create their own versions in the metaverse also. So right now we go to Ramesh to
Co-working
get us.
players be getting into metaverse.
Yes, yeah. Co-working players will definitely be getting into metaverse. I think it's a natural sort of extension to get into there. I think for now we go to Ramesh whenever we want advice and we want new space take up. He might have to even start a vertical to help us in the metaverse as well.
So next time it will be Ramesh 3D avatar in the metaverse.
Point noted.
So,
Any other questions, Sapna?
Yeah, Karan, you would like to add something to it, and Partha?
I like correctly said. It's too soon in the day to kind of comment on metaverse. We're all trying to figure out how we need to integrate meta into our overall offering, but it does look interesting, and we also feel that eventually it will kind of become a necessity more than an option to figure out whether how to use the metaverse. The Facebook metaverse. Yeah. So we are, I think, in a very nascent stage at the moment to give you a very, very robust answer, but soon we'll come back to you with an answer.
Yeah, that's right. Partha, and then we'll ask Ramesh to summarize the panel. Partha, your views.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the metaverse and what eventually will become of it is the fact that you can actually design every pixel in it. You can curate personalized experiences, right? So if my avatar is going for a meeting online with Ramesh, I can decide, should I wear this jacket or what jacket? And I can buy that online. And one can also buy, virtual real estate now, right? So now, see, the user is now getting used to that personal experience online. What it means is that when they walk into Nitish's office or Karan's offices, he will expect the same kind of personalization there. That personalized experiences will have to be curated. And we are in a position to actually do that now, because we can take data-driven decisions on the basis of all this information that Nitish spoke about that we can pick up from this different kinds of sensors that we have in the space. So I think that's the change which will come in. You will have to curate personal experiences in the physical workplace as well, because of our getting used to the safe world of metaverse.
That's right. Ramesh, over to you. Yeah.
Thanks, Sapna. We had a fantastic, insightful panel. We started with Karan speaking about how tech has become very, very essential thanks to COVID. Nitish spoke about how today there are a lot more engagement activities than ever before. Karan spoke about various engagement platforms he's trying to create to lighten mood, a lot of fun factors. One good insight I heard is Karan is through this, he's trying to make them miss work, so that they come back to his centers and fill up those app-controlled parking, app-controlled cafeterias, app for health and fitness. Those are some of the tech ideas we heard. Parth, you spoke about how innovation is more being driven by the occupiers, and you warned us that one size doesn't fit all. Karan, you spoke about how everyone is still figuring out innovation. It's constantly changing. And you give a very interesting example of how offices like an iPhone, we change our phones every couple of years. So why not change office designs every once in a few years? You also spoke about how the fixed to collab ratios are drastically changing. Nitish spoke about the opportunities in tier 2. His top picks for tier 2 was Jaipur, Ahmedabad, Cochin, Coimbatore, and Indore. Parth, you spoke about how there is a lot of opportunities to roll out innovation initiatives. Karan, you spoke about it's not a price game, it's value over price. In terms of sweet spot on size, both of you felt 80, 85 to around 90 square feet is the per square feet per person. Karan spoke about how 14 to 18,000 is his sweet spot. Nitish spoke about 9 to 11,000 being his sweet spot. In terms of advice to budding entrepreneurs, Nitish, you spoke about how one needs to identify a differentiator, think big. You spoke about how you are 6 million square feet now and you're looking at becoming a 35 million square feet company. Karan, you spoke about customer first, competition second. Think India, not just one location, but focus on health and safety. More importantly, in terms of valuations, we discussed 1.5 to 27 times of top line. But overall, we agreed that given that it's a new industry, multiplier on top line is important, although Karan felt that bottom line is also quite key in terms of the multiplier. Create technology depending on the occupier. That's what Parth said. And integration is still not seamlessly happening between what the occupier has and what some of the developers and architects are offering. So some re-strategizing space is required before you finally get all the AI and IoT at work in the facility. So I thoroughly enjoyed moderating this panel. Sabna, thanks for having me. And thank you, fantastic panel, Parth, Nitish, and Karan. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
and catch you all soon.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you,
All our
Ramesh.
speakers.
Great speaking to you.
Thank you everyone for those
Thank you.
very thought-provoking pointers that you mentioned in this discussion. So thank you everyone for being here with us. Thank you, Partha. Thank you, Karan Chopra. Thanks, Nitish, and thanks, Ramesh Nair, for being here and for this wonderful session.